3 years after her husband was presumed dead in a tragic plane crash, a grieving widow and her young son board a flight to escape their sorrow. On board, her son points to a man sitting with another woman, claiming he is his father. Now she must confront the impossible truth. Is the man a ghost from her past, or was her husband's death a lie? Before we continue, have you subscribed yet? Hit that button for more amazing stories and tell us in the comment where you're watching from. 3 years had passed since the world had declared Kendra's husband Samuel dead in a tragic plane crash. For Kendra, a 35-year-old widow, the time since had been a life built on quiet grief and raising their son, Ryan, who was now 7. To break from their sorrow, she took Ryan on a pilgrimage to a place Samuel had always wanted to visit with them, the Florida Keys. On the flight, the gentle hum of the engine was suddenly cut by a sound that made Kendra's heart freeze. "Mom, that's Dad," Ryan exclaimed, his voice a high-pitched mix of disbelief and joy, pointing across the aisle. Kendra followed his gaze and her blood ran cold. The man was a ghost from her past, a face she had mourned for years, yet here he was, undeniably alive. He was sitting next to a beautiful woman, a stranger with long, dark hair whose hand was casually resting on his arm. Kendra's grief was instantly replaced by a cold, hard anger. He hadn't died. He had left. She knew the man was Samuel, but who was this woman? And what was he doing here, living a life she had been led to believe was lost forever? The vacation, once a symbol of a new beginning, became a covert mission. While Ryan built sandcastles and chased crabs, Kendra discreetly took photos of the man she knew was her husband, capturing him in cafes and walking along the beach with the strange woman. She had to know. The need for answers was a gnawing ache in her gut. Back in their hotel room one night, with Ryan asleep, she found a private investigator online, a man named Mr. Wallace. The call was brief and to the point. She sent him the photos and a plea for help. The findings came a week later, a thick brown envelope delivered to her doorstep back in Chicago. The contents were a gut punch. Samuel was alive and well, living under a new identity. He had a different last name and a new social security number. The most devastating detail was a marriage certificate dated 2 years prior. Samuel had married the woman in the photos, Raina. The quiet grief Kendra had been carrying for 3 years was replaced by a roaring fury. The man she had mourned, the man whose memory she had held sacred, had faked his own death and was now living a new life with a new wife. He had abandoned them, choosing a different future for himself, while she had been left to pick up the pieces alone. The pain was more profound than the initial grief. She had been betrayed. 2 weeks later, life, in its strange and cruel way, forced a confrontation. Kendra and Ryan were at a cafe near their home, a simple outing for hot chocolate and pastries. As Ryan pointed out a fire truck outside, Kendra's eyes scanned the room, and her world stopped. Across the cafe, in a corner booth, sat Samuel and Raina. They weren't hiding. They looked comfortable, happy. As if her silent scream was a tangible thing, Samuel's eyes met hers. The color drained from his face, and his easy smile vanished, replaced by a look of sheer panic and fear. It was all the confirmation she needed. He had seen her. He knew she knew. This final encounter gave Kendra the courage to act. She couldn't let him get away with it. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and sent a text to the number Mr. Wallace had provided. "I need to see you. Now. Alone." They met in a quiet, secluded park. Samuel was pale and fidgety, a stark contrast to the confident man she had seen from a distance. The silence between them was thick with 3 years of unasked questions and untold lies. Kendra was the first to speak, her voice a low, steady tremor. "Why?" Samuel looked at the ground, then back at her. The words, when they came, were slow and painful. "It was a year before the crash," he began, his voice hoarse. "I was in a financial hole, a bad one. I got tangled up with the wrong people, a criminal organization. They were loan sharks, and the interest. It was impossible. I couldn't pay. They threatened us, Kendra. You and Ryan. They knew where you lived, where Ryan went to school. They said if I didn't pay, they'd come for you. Kendra's mind raced back, trying to remember any signs of his turmoil. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered, the anger momentarily forgotten, replaced by confusion. Because I couldn't, he said, the words a raw confession. They told me if I told anyone, if I went to the police, they'd find out and they'd hurt you. They gave me one way out. They had a pilot on their payroll, a man who could fake a crash. He told me it was the only way to get them off my back. They would assume I was gone, and you would be safe. They wanted to make an example, a statement of their power, but they wanted it to be clean. No one was supposed to get hurt. He pulled up the sleeve of his shirt, revealing a series of faded but still visible scars on his forearm. This is what happens when you cross them. They found out I was trying to get a plan together to get us all out, to run. They let me know what would happen if I didn't do what they said. They told me this would be what they'd do to Ryan if I didn't listen to them. The confession, the glimpse of a hidden, terrifying world, left Kendra speechless. She thought she knew her husband, but this man, this stranger, had been living a parallel life of terror and violence she couldn't even comprehend. And Raina? She asked, the question laced with a fresh wave of hurt. She's a cover, he said, his voice pleading. They needed me to maintain a new identity, a new life that was completely separate from my old one. She's a friend of the pilot's, an actress. Our relationship, it's a lie. I never stopped loving you, Kendra, not for a single day. I watched you and Ryan from a distance. I've been a ghost, a spectator in your life because I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. I know it's a lot to ask, but can you ever forgive me? Can I come back? Can I be a father to Ryan again? Kendra walked away from that meeting in a daze. The world she had built for herself, the reality of her quiet grief, was a house of cards that had just been blown away. She had a choice to make, a profoundly difficult one. The man she loved, the father of her child, was alive. He had risked everything to save them. But in doing so, he had caused her 3 years of immense pain and had betrayed her in the most unforgivable way. Could she bring him back into their lives? Or would she protect herself and Ryan from further pain by keeping him out? She spent a sleepless night, walking the floors of her quiet house, replaying every word of their conversation. The anger and hurt warred with the knowledge of his sacrifice. But somewhere in the middle of the night, a new thought took hold. In the past 3 years, she had become a stronger, more independent woman. She had learned to manage finances, fix leaky faucets, and be both a mother and a father to her son. She had grieved, healed, and rebuilt her life on her own terms. She didn't need a man to save her anymore. She had saved herself. The next morning, she texted him again. Let's meet one more time. The park. The air between them was different this time. Kendra was calm, resolute. Her eyes met his, and for the first time in years, she felt completely in control. I forgive you, she began, her voice steady. Not to reconcile, not to go back to the way things were, but to free myself from the hate. The anger I felt. It's been a weight, and I can't carry it anymore. Samuel's face lit up with a spark of hope. Kendra, No, she interrupted, holding up a hand. I can't be with you. The trust is broken, Samuel. You lied to me. You let me grieve you for 3 years. I understand why you did it, and I am grateful for what you did to keep us safe, but I cannot go back to being your wife. That's a life I no longer want. His face fell, the hope replaced by a deep sadness. But what about Ryan? You can be his father, she said, her voice softening slightly. You can build a relationship with him. We can co-parent. It won't be easy, but he deserves to know you, to have you in his life. But it will be on my terms. This is a new chapter, Samuel, and I won't be the same person I was before. Kendra stood there, feeling a profound sense of peace. She had not only forgiven him, but she had also released herself from a past that no longer defined her. She had built a future for herself and Ryan, a future filled with freedom and strength. It It was a future she would walk into with her head held high, no longer a victim of circumstances, but a woman who had found her own way home.